Welcome to part 5 of the series on finding meaning in life. Today I want to focus on the topic of fear, the things we run away from, the secret drivers of behavior that often keep us trapped. So when I think about the root blockage of most things in life, the thing that holds us back, the thing that stops us from pursuing our dreams, pursuing our goals, living meaningful lives, it's often fear, some form of fear. For me, my most deep-rooted fear would be fear of not being enough. In and alongside that is fear of failure, fear of judgment, which would link into not being enough. And I think when we're trying to find meaning in what we're doing, at least when I'm trying to think of how to align that, there's a fear. Fear I might get it wrong. Fear I might look stupid. Fear might show that I'm not enough. And the challenging part with fear is it's often hidden. If we could see our fears for what they were and they were in our conscious awareness, we could probably move past them pretty easily. But fear is almost like it's like a hidden brake. It just slows you down. It stops you moving forward. And if I look at myself when I have fears, often I've rationalized my way around them. Let's say, for example, I'm afraid of judgment or fear of failure. I rationalize to myself, now's not a good time to put out videos. Just wait until you're in a better place, better headspace, got more time, you got more energy to put into this. No rush to do it now. Sounds reasonable, right? It sounds like, oh yeah, that's a good logical way to think through it. In reality, fear. Fear of messing up. Fear of being judged. Fear of not being enough. And that's something I'm trying to tackle head on by examining my own fears around life. What am I most afraid of? As I said, I think my biggest fear is not being enough, being ordinary, being boring, just not being enough. That's the only way to put it. It's the only way I can think to frame the biggest fear I have, and everything else is downside of that. If I felt enough, felt complete, the rest of the fears would be noise, irrelevant. And for me to create more meaning in my own life, I need to learn to actively step into that fear. Step into not feel enough, but not letting that hold me back. So as I said, like the way I look at fear is like a brake, a hidden brake that's holding you back. And if you don't examine it, you don't acknowledge it, you don't try to push past it, you're going to end up stuck. You're going to end up not moving forward. And maybe 10 years go by, maybe 20 years go by, and then you examine and go, I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of not being enough. Oh, that stopped me doing all these things. And I feel like if you could remove fear, although remove fear might not be the objective, if you could acknowledge your fears in the moment, your deep insecurities, your deep vulnerabilities with yourself, if you could acknowledge them and go, right, I do feel this fear. This is a feeling I'm experiencing. I do not want to put myself in this situation. And then playing around with the idea of what would happen if I stepped into that fear. So this is almost like fear is like a protector, this hidden brake holding you back from potentially getting hurt, potentially getting scared. So if my biggest fear is not being enough, of course, my psyche, my mind, my subconscious wants to protect me from that. Imagine I arrive at a place where I don't feel enough. Oh, imagine I'm getting judged. Imagine I'm failing. Oof, my mind doesn't want that. That gets classed as a threat to my existence, at least on like a psychological level. So I will do things to avoid that. I will not put myself on the line. I will not be vulnerable. I will not put myself in situations where I could fail. So this is a lesson you hear often, where successful people often are the ones who are willing to fail the most. And alongside that, it's often because you've got to face these fears that are holding you back and be willing to confront how, when things don't go your way, how that makes you feel. So I think about my kind of relationship with fear, it's almost like I want to perform something, do something, achieve a goal. And the fear is, but what happens if it doesn't go well? What happens if I don't get the outcome I want? So my mind's created a kind of two paths. One is the good path that I want, and one is the bad path that I don't want. And rather than risking, ended up on the bad path where I feel bad about myself, so I can get on the good path and have the outcomes I want. I can go, nah, just wait. Let's not risk it. We don't want to end up on the bad path. So it's this almost like we avoid failures, which cost us success, or we avoid growth, we avoid pain, which stops us from getting growth. And this is always playing out. It's playing out in every single part of your life, in your relationships, in your career, in your health. There's often a fear that holds you back. Because if there was no fears, you would just act in alignment with what you thought was best. You just think of something, yeah, I want to do this idea, go. Yeah, I think I want to start a business, go. You'd be like a Elon Musk type of character who just seems to start businesses based on interests without worrying about failure. Maybe not a super billionaire, you don't need to be, but you would just go, oh, I've got an idea. I'm going to start a YouTube channel, done. Oh, I want to start a business about selling these things online, done. Like you just get moving. Yes, you would fail at times, you'd run into obstacles, but you wouldn't be spent thinking and stuck in your mind. I think that's often the challenge of fears. It gets you stuck in the mind. Or the challenge of my fears, I get stuck thinking about stuff, waiting for stuff, trying to plan stuff, trying to find a way that I can have the outcome I want without the downside. So you want the upsides, but you don't want to risk the downside. And yeah, I feel like this is an important conversation on this topic. It'd be inaccurate to do a series on meaning and then not cover fear, at least how I identify it for myself, because the richness of meaning and purpose, which I'm trying to find, is easily held back by fear, easily held back by not taking risks, easily held back by fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. So yeah, I think it's a important thing to acknowledge what your personal fears are. So if you could relate this to yourself, think about the goals you're trying to achieve in life and what fears hold you back. What's your root fear? What's the biggest fear you have? Is it the same as me? Fear of not being enough? Why is that? What does that represent by yourself? So for me, like if I look back to the video I did a few days ago on self-worth, for me, to be enough was to be successful, to achieve stuff, to be seen. And it stems back from early childhood of trying to be seen in a household of noisy voices and then trying to be seen as a runner amongst my family. And to be seen is to be loved in the definition of a child, and to be seen and loved is to be enough. So all of that is packaged neatly into how I do stuff now. I still want to be enough. So if I have to take something on, a new chapter of my life, step into an unknown, unknown's always got some fear because we don't know what's coming next. So the mind doesn't like the uncertainty of that. And we can very quickly hold ourselves back from finding out. And I think this is as I look more of my own life, I will definitely regret the things I didn't do out of fear rather than the things that I failed, which is funny because in the short term, my inner narrative can say the opposite. My mind can say, don't risk that. Don't do that now. Why you put out your 5th video in 5 days? No one's watching them. Nobody cares. And there's a very internal drive to protect from those short-term fears. But then I know if I fast forward into the future and I go 10 years in the future, 20 years in the future, and I look back on my life and I go, Adam, you could have done a really good job of this, but you didn't try. And in 10 years, I know there'll be like a feeling of fear blocked me. I didn't remove the fear. I wasn't brave enough. So yeah, this is a exploration on the topic of fear. Hopefully it was interesting for you guys. Let me know in the comments what fears are holding you back, and I'll dive in tomorrow with the next